It is the rock station Z93, and my name is Matt from Z93's Morning After, backstage at the Fillmore in Detroit. Tonight, Rats on the Road. Ghost is in town, and Tobias, the mastermind behind Ghost, nice enough to take some time out to chat a little bit about the new album and everything that's going on. So, Tobias, first off, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, we're about a week into the Rats on the Road tour. How have things gone so far for you guys?
Things have been very well. I mean, we have this is obviously in the startup phase of a tour, and even though this is 20 or so shows in America, but it's just before the album comes out, and we're looking forward to about 18 months on the road. So this is very, very, very embryonic state of the show, and even though I think that we're off to a flying start, and it's definitely we've added a lot of the changes that are prime, like the prime changes for this new show, but there's still a lot to come. We still have a lot of additional stuff that will be added on as we continue the tour. So I'm very much really happy about tonight, but I'm really hoping that we can get back to Detroit within a year or so, and we can do the full grand thing.
Now, it's got to be cool for a band like Ghost to come to, say, Detroit. You played, I think you said you played St. Andrews Hall before, to play a small venue, and then to gradually move venue sizes. I'm sure you're doing that in every city that you're playing now.
Yeah, most places. I mean, sometimes there's a limitation as to what venues you can play. Where you might have this sort of funky rock club that most bands from our sort of scene plays, and then the next step up is the Civic Center. On this tour, on this cycle, it's definitely become a little bit of a sort of a, what do you call it, like a split situation where if we don't get into a certain type of venue, we're not going to come. Easy as that. It's like we have spent so many nights touring America, getting people's expectations up. So I am definitely under I refuse to do certain things now because I want it to be of a certain level. And each territory, each city grows slightly differently, and things have I was just saying earlier today that how much just Detroit has changed for the positive over the years that we've been coming here for like 5-6 years. It's been like it's amazing. I don't know if you locals understand what an amazing difference it is, and how much it has sort of blossomed. You can see it as someone who just comes in every now and then, and you play. I mean, this is the second or third time we play at this venue. And it's still, I mean, with the production that we're having now, it's definitely a little bit cramped. So we had to scale off a few things, and it's, we're working with it, but definitely coming back needs to be a bigger thing. But it takes time, and some venues and some markets are very hospitable, where they have like the 1,000 cap, the 2,000 cap, 3,000 cap, 5,000 cap, 6,000 cap, and you can do all the round in the city and just work your way up. And some don't. So but that's part of the job.
Well, and the next big step for Ghost would be these big arena shows, which you guys have just recently announced. You're going to play Los Angeles at the Forum. You're going to play the Barclays Center in New York. Those are going to be massive shows in America for Ghost.
Yeah. It's there's going to be a few more like that as we sort of approach that, and the plan is throughout the cycle to gradually sort of start switching into that format, because as soon as you're playing, that's the big difference between playing a place like the Fillmore, which is a theater, obviously, with a proscenium, and there's no like real all the show goes just in one direction. It's like one towards the crowd in the front, whereas as soon as you play arenas, you have people on the side and up from a lot more angles. So you have to. It's a vast difference in the size of pants that you need to fill, basically. And I'm sort of forgetting where I was going, but that is definitely even closer to what I want to do. When you have your own stage with you, and you can construct the stage a little bit better. Whereas obviously tonight is not a seated show, so that's good. I actually prefer general admission, where you have energetic people in the front, basically, because you feed off of the energy of the crowd. And the smaller, or depending on what the theater is built like, sometimes even though the full room swallows 2,000 people, it might be the upper tier that has 1,000, and then even more. Sometimes the upper tier is huge, and then the tier the sort of the main floor with seats is V-shaped, so that the front row is 10 people seated. And then the next row is 12 or 11, and then it goes. So it feels like you're playing in front of this little crowd of people, but the rest of them in the back is sort of unreachable. And if you're playing an arena, you can control that in a better way. You can have walkways out, and you can sort of touch everyone. You can be close to, or at least way more people, and I like that. I like to have a grandiose big stage, but I also like to have the proximity. Joined
by Tobias from Ghost, and the Rats on the Road tour has kind of been an introduction for the new face of Ghost. Cardinal Copia has taken over, and he's been supplanted as the leader of the group, so to speak. How have fans reacted to him taking over for Papa after his departure?
Seems to have been going well, I guess. I haven't heard anything heavily negative, but I to be frank, I don't really read everything. But I ask around to get a general consensus, just to sort of have, you want to have your radar on, your ear to the ground a little. And it seems like people understand it's part of the theme of the record as well, the idea of mortality and circulation. We do have a Papa Emeritus. It's just that his name is Papa Emeritus Nil, and he's just not on stage much. But if you see the show, you will see that Papa Emeritus Nil is watching over the Cardinal, because Cardinal is not the leader yet. He is the appointed Toastmaster. So if he learns and gets to learn all the things that needed to be a Papa, he might eventually become Papa Emeritus IV.
And there was a big deal made out of the fact that you're breaking the bloodline to bring the Cardinal into this. Was there any nervousness when the decision is made, Cardinal is going to be the Toastmaster, as you said? Is there any nervousness that he might not be able to do the job correctly as opposed to the Papas who've come before him?
There's always a little bit of angst going into new cycles and changing characters and getting new people in, but I'd feel more nervous if we just set sails with the same old, and people would find that boring. That I would feel way more worried about. And I am, as much as my taste in music and my way of recording records, but also collecting records and all that, is very nostalgic and very archaeological. I also believe that all the bands that most people like, they became big because they took big steps. That was it. That's how you do. You cannot stagnate. I have to take this further and push it to uncomfortable territory in order for it to grow. And if this doesn't stand on discomfort, then it's not as good as I think it is. So it needs to do that. But luckily, I have people following, so it's but one day sooner or later, there will always be ups and downs, and I'm just happy that this turned out to be an up.
Has there been any consideration? I know a lot of bands, they talk about the fact that, Kiss, for example, has said we could continue on without original members. We could keep this going for years and years and years, even after the other members are gone. Has there been any thought? I realize it's very early on, but is there a consideration that Ghost could be something that could be around forever?
I think that there's a lack of perspective that we have as a community. As a music-loving community, let's just the general population, I guess. I mean, I have never heard Beethoven's music being played by him, so and that's fine. Same as Bach and Vivaldi, and and I think that we are, just because we're living at the tail end, sort of the classic rock era, where the masters are still, half of them at least, are alive. There's no way for us to understand how they will live with the idea of rock and roll 50 years from now, when all of us, might be dead. So it is not for me to, my job, my only task is to try to do this as good as possible. And I mean, first and foremost, I need to do it for myself and my family. That's what I'm doing. And then you try to make it as easy to, in whatever extent there will be an aftermath, some sort of legacy to keep. Either be it, just copyrighted things, and monetary things. You just try to, box it as neatly as possible in the future for anyone who's going to take care of it. But I have no idea how that will be. If there will be a demand, that will be something that it's not up to me to think about. And it's not up to me to, talk about Kiss that way. I liked Kiss from when I was 3 years old, and I've seen them the real deal with all the original members when they came back in '96 and all that. And that's fine. How that is being revered and treasured in the future, when they're not able to do it anymore because of physical conditions or not basically being alive, it's not up to me to. That's for the future to decide whether or not they want to be entertained with that. But I would love when I'm 60, 70-year-old, and if I have grandkids who want to go see the Kiss show, that would be lovely. Of course. What else are we going to do? Of course, it wouldn't be the same thing, but it's fine.
Speaking of the future, you do have a new album. It's on the way. It's coming out June 1st. It's called Prequelle, and you've released the song Rats, which I think, unless people have seen the show, they haven't heard any other new music from the band and from Ghost just yet. How would you compare the new album to some of the stuff you've done in the past? Rats, to me, Rats seems to be one of the more accessible songs that the band has made. It seems like, as a guy working in radio, it seems very radio-friendly. It's a song that you knew when you heard it, it was going to be massive. Can we expect that from the whole album? Is that the goal with the album, to kind of branch Ghost out into bigger realms?
Yes. I mean, obviously, I always try. I've always been very, for lack of a better phrase, but hit-seeking, hit-driven. Even when I wrote death metal songs for a death metal record, I was always trying to do my best to sort of make it as catchy as possible, because that's how I like music. I prefer catchy, passionate, temperamental music, and as an upside of that, Ghost's repertoire has over the years been piqued by a few sort of hits, and of course when you're in the prospect of making a new record, it's impossible not to be aware of the fact that previous cycle had 3 songs that made well on the mainstream rock chart, whatever, And, of course, if the new record doesn't have any of that, it's going to be looked upon as a failure. So, I'd love to have 4. I'd be happy with 3. I'm still excited about 2. And if Rats is the only one, fine, great. That's fantastic. That's more than I ever had before. I mean, before I had the 3 first ones. So it's like, I think it's unrealistic to expect that bands did not think about it. You want to be as successful as possible. You want to have the strongest legs to stand on as possible for every album that you're doing. But the trick for me that also sort of warps my head a little, but every time I'm done with a record, I feel very happy about it, is that I always try to write new songs. If we had an X amount of success with Squarehammer, for example, or Cerise, or Pinnacle, I try to write a song that differs from them, so that we don't go into the same beaten path and try not to repeat anything. The same thing with the whole album. Like I try to write 10 new pieces of music that you haven't heard before, and it gets harder and harder every time, because you try to try to fill in the blanks, and you try to sort of feel out what have we not done yet. What would I, as a fan, if I try to put myself in a fan perspective, what would blow my mind hearing as a first track on the B-side? What would be the most unthinkable thing right here? And I think that's what made Prequelle as well. Like that same way that I think that I did that with Meliora. And I really tried to do that with Infestissimum, because we had a massive amount of hype from the first album that everybody was debating whether or not we could live up to or not. And I knew that one thing, the best way to sell out, but not in monetary means, but from a sort of a mental sellout, would have been to try to copy Opus. And that Metallica did not make it big because they copied Kill 'Em All. Iron Maiden did not make it big because they copied Iron Maiden, the first record. They made Killers. And then they switched singers, which is the nightmare suicidal move. That went well. AC/DC didn't quit when Bon passed away. They did their biggest record in the world. So it's like you have to push. And I think that that's the only way to make it. And as I said, you will have ups and downs, and some work and some will not. But that's having a career. That's what it is. That's life. That's how it goes, up and down with everything. Not even the band, not only bands. It's like it's constant, and things change. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the new album when it comes out June 1st. I have not had the chance to see Ghost live. This will be my first time tonight, so to tell you that I am beyond excited about this show, having watched the videos from previous shows that you've done with Rats on the Road, I'm excited to be here tonight, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to me before this, because I know it's going to be awesome.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be standing crowd, Saturday night, Detroit. I love it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really cool.
Tobias from Ghost, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.